It's true that today there are more content creators than there have ever been before. And with so many people sharing their opinions online across all different platforms and what feels like a 24/7 content feed, it's actually very easy to annoy people, whether you mean to or not. I've been thinking a lot lately about who I follow online, especially who I've stuck with over the last decade, and what creators have kind of made me want to hit the unfollow button. I started thinking that I couldn't possibly be alone in wondering this. So for today's video, I asked you all on Instagram what your biggest influencer turnoffs are, so that as creators, we can understand what isn't resonating with people and maybe some ways that we can consider improving. And I'll also be addressing if there was any feedback or responses that I think are just a little bit unfair or unwarranted. I got a lot of interesting responses from both fellow content creators and from consumers of content creators. So let's go through them now. I also threw in one of my own influencer turnoffs in here too, and let's rank them based on how bad they really are from a scale of 1 to 5. Oh, and you guys, please do get in the comments for this one. I really would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on these. Okay, the first response I got was complaining about being busy / complaining about engagement. This is one that I have seen more and more in recent years. I'm gonna give this one a 3 on the annoying scale or whatever we want to call it. And I think this is because content creation is actually very hard and challenging, whether people like to admit it or not. No, we're not saving lives, but that's not to say that this job does not come along with stresses and pressure and intense metrics and competition, just like a lot of other industries. On the being busy front, I think that there is still a big education gap between people who consume content understanding what the day-to-day of a content creator actually looks like. And that's a big reason why I started this YouTube channel, to pull back the curtain more and show a bit more of what actually happens on a regular day. Because it might just look on Instagram stories like we're just drinking martinis and getting our nails done and getting Ubered to all of these different events. But my reality personally as a full-time content creator is a lot of hard work, a lot of time spent behind my laptop, and a lot of time dealing with things that pop up that I'm thinking, why am I the one who's in charge of this? But I think the best way to think about this as a creator is the same way you would think about at any job. If you're feeling overwhelmed at work, who is better to complain to? Your customers or your coworkers? Complaining to your customers, or in this case to your audience, is not necessarily a good look, especially if they are generally supporting your content, liking your videos, sending you messages, sharing your content with their friends. That doesn't feel like a great way to reward them or thank them for their support. But if you want to ever, DM me or any fellow content creators out there and say, oh my God, I'm so sick of the TikTok algorithm doing XYZ, we're a lot more likely to commiserate with you. It's for this reason that I really try not to complain publicly unless I am putting out a valuable opinion or kind of sharing a hot take. I had to do this on Instagram recently when Adam Mosseri posted a reel saying that he doesn't think any content creators who don't have hundreds of thousands of followers should even bother monetizing. So I did have some opinions on that, but again, I was really trying not to frame it as a complaint. I was trying to frame it as, here's why I think that this is invalid and that why I'm surprised the head of Instagram feels this way. In general, I do keep my complaints to my, kind of coworkers or peers, which is usually Caitlin or Tanisha, and sometimes my family too. I'll complain to my parents or Andrew from time to time about certain work things that bother me, but I don't feel like I need to air all of my grievances out to my audience. I think complaining about engagement, can I give that specifically a 5 though? Because I know that it can be frustrating. As a micro content creator who has had really slow growth over the last few years, I totally get the urge to complain about engagement. However, again, I really feel like this is not going to get you very far with your audience. It's okay to be frustrated if your videos aren't getting the reach you want. It's okay to feel disappointed if a piece of content you were really proud of isn't received the way you hoped it would be. But that's not your audience's fault, and you don't want to drive them away by making them feel like it's their fault. To summarize, my general advice here is try not to complain to your audience, and if you are going to talk about having a busy day, maybe consider showing them a bit of the behind the scenes of what you actually do. Ooh, okay. The next one that I was sent was when influencers don't use closed captions or put read the caption in a reel with no information. I too find this to be annoying. I'm going to give it a 4, and the big reason I'm going to give it a 4 is because I do think this becomes an issue of accessibility. I think that providing closed captions for people who need them is really important and becoming industry standard. I believe TikTok recently did something with their captions or added some kind of option where you can show the captions or not, depending on the video. I don't know a ton of details about this. If you know what I'm talking about, please fill us in the comments. But on Instagram Reels, Instagram Stories, Pinterest, those closed captions aren't adding themselves. I also think in addition to accessibility, a lot of people still scroll TikTok or watch things without the sound, especially if they're out in public or, I don't know, like me. Sometimes I wake up before Andrew and I will be on TikTok, but I'm going to watch everything with no volume if he's still asleep. The way I think about that is you're giving people as good of a reason as you can to stick around and watch your content. Because again, if I'm watching a TikTok at 6 a.m. before the alarm has gone off and there's no captions and it's a 3-minute video, I am not going to sit there for 3 minutes just watching someone's movements. If they're talking and I can't hear them, I'm going to scroll to whatever the next one is that I can interpret just from having the sound off. Again, I think there are a few exceptions to this. If you create mainly short, aesthetic Instagram Reels, clearly you don't need captions for that. But if you are talking to the camera in a lot of your videos, give people a reason to keep watching and make it easy for them. As far as the reels that have no information and just say read the caption, I agree that these are getting out of hand. This is currently my least favorite content that exists, especially on Instagram, because it just drives me nuts. You are creating a reel. This is your chance to tell me something in that piece of content. I don't mind additional information in the captions, but if it's just a quick video that's 3 seconds that loops and says like how I doubled my Instagram following in 2 days, and then it just says read the caption. Now I don't want to read the caption. You want to know why? Because I see that as you are just posting that to get more views. And if you want to actually educate people, then this is your chance to make a thoughtful reel educating someone about it. There's a good chance that they really do deliver the great information in the caption, but sometimes I also click on the caption where there's no information and it wants me to redirect to sign up for some kind of mastermind or something that then I have to pay for. And Instagram, if we're talking just sales in general, Instagram is a place to generate leads. It's a place to drive brand awareness. It's very top of funnel to get people to click on your videos, to be interested in you, and then to follow you. We talked about this in a recent video of mine where I talked about cold, warm, and hot leads for your business. And people who discover you on the Instagram Explore page, that's a cold lead. So just consider that as you're creating your content. And if you do lead with value and you're able to kind of hook someone in from the beginning, the more they stick around, the more likely they will be eventually to, warm up to you, to continue to follow along, and potentially to support you in some of the more monetary ways that we talk about a lot on this channel. Ooh, okay, I'm getting fired up now, honestly. Okay, the next one that you guys sent in is not jumping in, basically spending too much time saying nothing leading into a story. Okay, for me personally, on the annoying scale, I'm gonna give this a 2. And the reason I'm giving it a 2 is because I think this depends a lot on the creator and also the platform. Because some people are rambly, more lifestyle type creators who are known for their storytelling. Their whole thing is that they want you to feel like you're on FaceTime with your best friend and that you actually are going to be more rambly than not. And I think a lot of those creators are people who started out at least creating content for long form platforms. For me, in general, when I see YouTubers and podcasters who I've followed, when I go and look at their Instagram and TikTok pages, they kind of still tend to be more long-winded. They're the ones who are posting 90-second or longer reels, 3-minute TikToks, and I really feel like that's just a reflection of they started out as long-form content creators and they're carrying that over into their short-form content. However, I do think those creators should be aware that if they're spending 20 seconds of a reel kind of saying nothing before they even get to the topic that they wanted to talk about, it can be more likely that people aren't going to stick around for that whole thing. Versus if you think about YouTube or a podcast, a lot of people do stay after the first 30 seconds because it's such a long form piece of content. People do want to stick around for longer and keep listening or keep watching because they know that there's going to be a little bit of an intro before you get into the topic. There's also like a running, I don't know what to call it. Is it a running meme? Is it just a running repeated joke that I see, which is a complaint that people have about food bloggers? Like, no one needs to know how your grandmother came up with the recipe for her pie crust. Just like, give me the recipe, because food bloggers, I guess, historically have, added a lot of anecdotes and context to their recipes and how they were developed. And some people just want to click on and get the recipe. I have two thoughts about this. Number one, most food blogs do have a jump to recipe button. So if you click on a post and you just want the recipe, you should be able to skip anything before that. However, I feel like we are also kind of entering like a renaissance of content creation where for a while we got very quick tips focused. We got very like, give me the hacks, give me the growth, and there wasn't a ton of room left for personality. And I do think people are craving more personality, more authenticity, and more realness than we've gotten in the last couple of years. And I think that's a big result of people, creating more off-the-cuff videos on platforms like TikTok and Reels. And I think that is starting to carry over a little more into some long-form content as well. So to summarize that one, I can totally understand why it might be annoying, but consider where the creator is coming from. And at the end of the day, if it's really bothering you and they're not getting to the point fast enough, not a bad time to move on to other creators who do. Oh, so the next one I got was not disclosing gifted and paid campaigns. This is a 5. This is a 5. This is not only bad, it's literally against the law. Influencers know at this point that they need to disclose when they are being paid to promote something or when the brand has gifted them something. It's actually not hard at all to understand. What I will say is some brands do give confusing guidance to influencers, so I think it's really important to do your own research and not just rely on what a brand is directing you to do as far as disclosures go. Usually for paid campaigns, brands are much better about this, but sometimes they like to blur the lines when it comes to gifted partnerships. For example, there was a clothing brand that I was doing a kind of monthly gifted partnership with a year or two ago, where they would let me pick out an outfit, and in exchange, I would create a reel with those gifted pieces. Now, they wanted me to use the paid partnership tool, and I pushed back on them because I said, you're not paying me, and that's going to confuse my audience, thinking that I got paid for something when really I was gifted product. I always disclosed that the product was gifted, but I did push back on them and I said, I'm not using the paid partnership tool if you're not paying me. And they kind of got back to me and were like, oh, we strongly encourage it, but okay, if that's, what you want to do. And I was like, that's just confusing and misleading. And I also made sure to read my contract with that brand. They originally wanted usage rights, which again, I'm not going to give away for a gifted partnership. So like I said, for paid partnerships, especially when there's like a contract involved and a very detailed brand brief, brands are usually a bit more on top of this, but be careful with those gifted partnerships. And remember that even for affiliate links, you want to make sure you're clearly disclosing those. And I'll put a screenshot from the most recent FTC guidance on how to disclose affiliate links on the screen. They say that, using the word affiliate link is not a substantial disclosure. If you want to really be covering your bases, you should use paid link as your disclosure. So I'll leave a link to where I got this from down below on the FTC website. Again, this applies to US-based content creators, but be sure to read those and cover your bases. Next up, someone said overreactions or exaggerations about products. For example, OMG, this changed my life. This is a very well-timed response to this question that I asked about influencer turnoffs, because I was just thinking about this recently and was actually inspired to write a blog post about products that I do believe have actually changed my life. So that's over on Keep Calm and Chiffon. I'll link it down below if you'd like to go read it. But I was thinking about this because I think I must have gotten 5 or 6 stories back to back that I was watching where someone said, obsessed, life-changing, love, 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 favorite thing I've ever tried. And the just overall theme of the hyperbole really hit me in the face. And I was like, everyone just is using and recycling all of the same exact words to talk about products. And it's making it hard for me as a viewer, and I'm assuming everyone else who's viewing this content, to figure out what products are actually good. Because if everything is your favorite, then nothing is your favorite, right? Are they still power washing our building? This was supposed to be done last week, by the way. We're just going to keep going. I would probably rate this one a 2. I think it's going to get more annoying over time if we don't find some synonyms for the words that we find ourselves repeating. And by the way, I'm not immune to this. I am absolutely guilty of doing this, but I think that, even bringing up synonym.com when you're trying to find another word for obsessed or love is a really quick and easy way to just throw in a different word and to add a bit of variety to the content we're creating. If you're a beauty creator, for example, and you're posting about the new Rare Beauty blush, which I'm wearing today, and I am really enjoying so far, instead of just saying, oh my god, obsessed, can we talk about the packaging? I really like that it's a matte package, and when it opens up, there's a mirror inside. You can talk about the texture. It has a really beautiful shimmer to it, but it's not overly glittery. That's already giving the viewer more information than just that you love it, and also helping them decide if that's a product that they want to try. I think that even being thoughtful, giving yourself 1 or 2 bullet points even as you're filming these things. I know it's so easy to just sit down and turn the camera on these days, but I do think that a tiny bit of planning and having a sense of what you want to talk about will overall make the video more interesting, and people will sense the effort that you've put in. I love this submission. Sorry to say love, but I do, which is influencers only posting when it's sponsored content, especially mega YouTubers. I think we all follow one of these. I'm gonna give this one a 4. I find it really annoying when all I'm getting from someone is sponsorship after sponsorship after sponsorship with no breaks for any organic content. I would say that this bothers me least during the holiday season because the influx of brand partnerships that creators are offered during the holidays is kind of hard to ignore. And I think that as long as you are amping up your organic content efforts too, that will help make those sponsored posts feel a bit more spread out and not like you turned on your favorite TV show and it turned out to just be all ads. I think that if you are only posting sponsored content, it's going to be very easy to lose the trust of your audience. And that is the most important thing you have as a creator and something you should be protecting at every step of your business. This happened to not a mega influencer, but a creator who I follow, whose YouTube videos I used to look forward to every week. I would say that she did a mix of vlogs and sit-down videos. And just as a third-party observer, I've bumped into her at some events and stuff in New York City, but we're not like close personal friends. So just as someone who's watched her content, I get the sense that she got very burned out. And burnout as an influencer is nothing to be taken lightly. I actually have a whole other video about burnout that I will link down below if you want to check it out. But for this particular creator, she really only does upload YouTube videos now when they're sponsored, and every once in a while she'll throw in an organic vlog, but as soon as she does that, I know for sure that the next video she posts is going to be sponsored. And I think that video is just getting thrown in as a palate cleanser. I don't necessarily think it's like top tier YouTube content. My biggest thing about that is I just think it gets less interesting. You know, I think that if it's all sponsorships, even if it's brands that you love, I still want that organic content mixed in. I still want, you know, the slightly less polished version of someone sometimes. I think it's also a really important reminder that if you do feel like you're on the brink of burnout, to take a step back, reevaluate, and come up with a plan that works for you, where you're going to have still a balance of organic and sponsored content that will actually work and make sense for you. Okay, another turnoff that was submitted: when influencers constantly change their content, but some variance is fine. I'm gonna go like a 2-3 on this, maybe a 3 if I had to pick. And again, I think this really depends on the creator. And this is sort of what sparked the idea for this whole video, which is there are some people that I've been following for over a decade, and I've seen them go through so many life changes, right? I've seen them graduate college, move to a new city, get a job, get married, sometimes have kids, and that's a lot of different life changes to go through, because obviously a lot can happen in 10 years. And then there are some people who I have followed very seasonally, where I can look back and remember, oh my God, I was obsessed with that YouTuber in 2016. Like, I have no idea what she's doing today. And that kind of raised the question for me again, like, what makes someone hit unfollow? What makes someone get turned off from a content creator who they used to follow pretty consistently? I think that it's pretty easy to tell for this if someone is really just growing and evolving with their content as their life is changing, and someone who's just chasing views. For example, if I saw Pookie was trending, right? Her and Jet do their outfit videos and fit checks, and I grabbed Andrew and was like, you need to start filming outfit videos with me. I feel like he would be like, what? Why? Like, no, I'm not doing that. Just because that's not at all what my content is about, and making that hard and fast shift would be pretty obvious that I would just be trying to buy into the success that Pookie's had, even though that's basically never something that you're going to see on my channel. So I think there's a difference between creators evolving to different life stages and just people who are chasing views, chasing trends, and trying to go viral for the sake of virality. Similarly to that one, someone wrote having no originality with their brand and content. I'm going to give this one a 3 as well. I think that when you look at TikTok, Reels, Pinterest, like, we really do live in a trend-focused ecosystem, and it can be really hard to get out of that sometimes. You know, trends come and go, people hop on them, and sometimes you do just want to try a trend because you think it's fun, or maybe you need a piece of filler content because your usual content takes a lot more effort and you're short on time some weeks. I think a small percentage of your content being trend-driven is fine, but if your feed is just 100% trends and no originality, I totally understand why that is a turnoff. And then this one is one that I thought of, and this is just something I've started to notice more and more with content creators, and maybe you guys can weigh in again in the comments and tell me what you think. Why are there some influencers and content creators who straight up just don't answer any comments? I understand if you're a big content creator who usually gets a ton of engagement on your posts, not being able to get to every single comment. But there are just so many accounts these days where I go and scroll through the comments and the person who created the video is not even replying to anything. TikTok and Instagram have actually made this even easier, where you can like a comment at the very least, and some creators aren't even doing that. I just think that this ties into a theme that's kind of been brewing throughout this whole video, which is the trust of your audience is huge. And you wouldn't have the platform that you have now if there were not people following you. And I think that it is just a sign of respect and wanting to cultivate the community to at least do your best to get back to some comments. I know it can be overwhelming, especially if you do have a big following and go viral quite often. But even think about setting aside 30 minutes to just on your laptop respond to at least 5 or 10 comments on every video. I think that people will be really flattered that you took the time to answer them, and, answering with a little bit more than just an emoji or a thanks also goes a really long way and will help build that trust and keep people coming back to your content. Oh, I think I forgot to rank that one, but I'm going to give that one a 4 because respond to your comments, people, if you can. We would really appreciate it. All right, everyone, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, you know what I'm going to ask of you, which is to please subscribe and like this video. Those are both great free ways to support my channel and show YouTube that you're enjoying the content that I'm creating. As you know, I post new videos every single week, and if you want to learn more about the ratio between organic and sponsored content that I think creators should follow, be sure to check out the up next recommendation on the screen to watch that video next. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.